there, my friend. Today's call is definitely NSFW. Not safe for wussies. Some of the events I shall describe in here were definitely not meant for young or the squeamish. So don't say I didn't warn you. This is a story so lewd and depraved that even Grandma might vomit up chunks. Hang up now, unless you are jaded or a perverse creep, because this isn't one for the kiddies sucking on their lollipops. You have been warned. Don't blame me if your child's bad dreams and acting out continue just because you were a negligent parent worthy of running the gauntlet. Let us begin. Her name, Sally Gretsch, 31. A plain Jane office girl with little ambition aside from finding a man, which she never did, until 2018 rang that bell and she found someone special. Location, Lebanon, Tennessee. Date, 2018. Sally was an everyman of a woman. She had waited patiently for the right man, but he never appeared. Occasional dates ended in little more than handshakes and prompt vanishing acts, which was sad, really, because she wasn't all that bad-looking, and she wasn't a stifling personality or a demanding killjoy. Sally was merely boring. She was average without any defining personality traits to make her a catch, and perhaps in that way she also came off as desperate, or the type to settle down with. But this was 2018. Who settles down when you can sleep around? Sally had too much patience as she waited for something to materialize in her life. She grew thirsty, as the kids say these days. Very thirsty indeed. Miss Gretsch worked in a large office building in Lebanon, doing data entry and small-time accounting work within a maze of cubicles. It was 80% women, and most of the unmarried men were taken. It caused an environment of overly driven female hormones, because the building was stuffed with many women just like Sally. It was a place Lebanon sent all of its old maids, it seemed. Of the few available men, the very few available men without girlfriends, they were all rather undesirable to the women of Sally's office. Something was always wrong about the males still on the market. Too fat, too tall, too ugly, bad skin, and so on. All those women longed for was someone that evoked the kinds of sexual thrills they derived from their romance novel covers. One of those few odd fellows in the office pool rose above the ranks, so to speak, in late 2018. Something about him was noticeably different to all the women. Not just the singles or the swingles. Jimmy Johnson was average in physical stature, but rather doughy and had horrible skin wrecked by uncontrollable acne. There was no personality in his speech or clothes or walk, and he lived the life of a 20-something video game hermit. To the ladies, he was a hopeless incel with little aspiration beyond existing long enough to die without too much pain or suffering at the hands of today's malicious society. But again, something about Jimmy Johnson had changed, and something within the thirsty pack of office girls noticed Jimmy's metamorphosis. He was slimming down, his muscles protruded, his hair was fluffing up and being well-groomed, yet effortlessly wild. His eyes were large and bright, and his skin, yes, his skin cleared up. Jimmy was blooming late, but blooming nonetheless. And all the birds wanted a visit from that bee. Oh, goodness. Oh, I must stop these silly cliché illusions. Anyway, his skin. Jimmy's skin was perhaps the most amazing attraction to this gaggle of genitally beguiled gals. Somehow he had gotten treatment for his skin, and what remained under the layers and layers of rashes and pus was entrancing. It was smooth and perfect and almost shone in the light. There weren't any defects or discolorations or flakes or odd spots or anything. It broadcast the message that Jimmy was a very healthy fellow indeed, and not a member of the odd lot anymore. Sally's eyes couldn't escape Jimmy. Her eyes eagerly awaited Jimmy's arrival every day, tracked his passage through the cubicles when possible, and followed him as he departed every night. Her heart, actually her groin, yearned for this transformed man. But the competition was stiff, if that's the appropriate word, perhaps wet. Well, no, I went too far. I am sorry. All the lonely and lovelorn in that office in Lebanon felt a desire for the mysterious and reconstructed Jimmy Johnson, and he obviously knew it. Sally saw him flirt with and then presumably bed each and every woman on the floor. That wasn't intentional. He would chat them up and leave with another one every night. This went on for months. The office pool sighed when he arrived, and it sighed when he departed. He was sure to go around and never burn any bridges. The nobody of yesteryear was the stud of 2018. And he improved morale in that office immensely. But poor Sally patiently waited and waited to catch the eye of Jimmy, to partake in the gifts only a desirous and virile man could deliver. And then it came. That wasn't intentional either, believe me. Anyway, her chance arrived one day when Jimmy stopped by her cubicle to chat her up. It began slow and built to a climax as he asked her out to his place for Netflix and chill. Oh my, so mundane. Where is your romance, 2018? To Sally, the simple request made her heart leap upwards, and her nether regions leap even higher than that. This was her moment to be fulfilled and taste the fruit of manhood, even if it was previously low-hanging fruit. She arrived early. He had a wonderfully sparse apartment, kept clean and tidy. It was refreshing to Sally that she wouldn't have to wade through copious piles of underwear and unwashed shirts, dirty rugs and filthy artifacts. To the perspicacious, it would have seemed a little too antiseptic, but I nitpick. It was time for Jimmy to bang that drum. That was a percussion joke. Never mind. Jimmy wasted no time getting to the point. The hunt was over, and the feast began. He nibbled her neck, he slid off her top, and he went down below the belt. It was getting serious when he finally asked her how he felt up inside of her. She didn't expect it, having already been slid across the dining room table, and was now suspended halfway up a wall by the vigorously physical male co-worker. What a question to ask, she thought, and then she pondered it. She concentrated on it. She couldn't care less how long or small or thin or thick he was in the down-under department. All she wanted was to connect with this man and feel something she had never felt, the feeling of being desired. But then she realized something else. She wanted to touch, to see, and feel his skin. It was all she had wanted since she took notice of Jimmy. His skin was mesmerizing. It almost had a kind of oral effect, but no, a pulsing set of undertones that was subtle and hypnotizing. His skin was to die for. Then she concentrated on the question, how was he inside her? He was wide. He was not particularly long or painful, but he was wider than she had ever expected. It didn't hurt her. In fact, it was the opposite, because it sated the need to be opened up by a man. And then she realized what was about to happen as nature caused this Johnson to spasm and throb within her. Sally panicked. He was unprotected. She was unprotected. She pushed him away, easing him out. "No!" screamed Sally. "Not inside. I'm not on birth control." He was a little aggressive and wanted to obviously be in her for a while longer, but he allowed her to back off of him and out. Once outside, he stood proudly before her as they watched what would be a glorious report from deep inside, a display of his lust for her and her attractiveness to him. Sally felt as if she would burst, seeing a man at his finest. The man's engorged and ever-inflaming member wobbled and waved more and more violently. Sally was completing her part of the act without even trying, just by watching. And then he ejaculated. But this wasn't an ejaculation you would expect. Something came out, but it wasn't the fluid of life. It was a grotesque sausage of purple and black. She screamed. It flopped on the floor and bounced to produce a puddle of old blood and lymph before lying still. She looked to its crotch. An empty, dangling skin remained, dripping with rotting fluids. Sally screamed again. "Oh, no," said Jimmy, as his entire body became a bubbling mass of flesh. His skin was rippling, his form distorting, his limbs flailed lightly as he began to sag and bend awkwardly. The sound of bubbling and squishing came out of every orifice. "Not again," he said to a breathlessly frightened girl, only able to watch the sight and not move from disbelief. "I was having so much fun. He went quicker than most," Jimmy said. And then Jimmy's speech completely discombobulated, and chunks of flesh spewed from his mouth. His eyeballs slid out of their sockets and dropped to the floor. More and more parts of rotted human flesh and innards were spouting out of Jimmy's form, Jimmy's smooth and wondrous skin, until a putrid pile of gooey corporeal meat and fluid remained around the deflated skin of the erstwhile stud. Sally backed up, fumbling to find the door and run. She was naked, but she wanted to escape and never come back. She wanted to run naked through the apartment building and drive naked until she was as far across this planet as she could possibly be, and then hope one day, the memory of this event would vanish miraculously from her mind, and she could live some semblance of happiness, or have some mild contentment again, perhaps. It wasn't to be. She heard a blubbering sound from behind her. It was Jimmy, or more precisely Jimmy's flesh, inhaling and exhaling through a formless maw as he tried to speak without the use of vocal cords. It flapped and farted out some barely audible words. "Sally," it hissed and fluttered. "I need you." Flip, flop. She turned to see the flesh squirming on the ground toward her. Sally screamed, but it was too late. The sack of empty skin reached out fast, stretching the distance with inhuman effort to encircle her ankle with one arm. If that's what you want to call it, once the arm had no meat or bone within. She screamed again, but was so shocked that her voice froze. It slithered and frothed, grabbing at her, clinging to her, as it swiftly slithered around her naked, stimulating figure. Jimmy's skin finally came face to face with his paramour. His mouth worked ineffectively without bone and teeth and vocal cords. but it stared into her eyes with its own blank sockets, or holes, and said, "I need you, Sally. We need to be one forever." And thus the skin began to kiss her lips, her gaping mouth, as it attempted to gain favor. But it was only an illusion of love, of sexual intimacy. Roles were reversing. Where Jimmy was previously swallowed up and taken in by Sally, Sally was now being ingested by this skin through the mouth of the beast. It slowly expanded its mouth over her head, much like a snake consuming prey. Sally found her voice again and screamed. But her screams were soon muffled, as her entire head was within the dark and smelly sack of Jimmy's skin. Over a course of several minutes, it had slowly spasmed and struggled to completely encompass her through its mouth. Her body thrashed and wriggled within, trying to tear its way out, to escape, but it was hopeless. Muffled screams came to little fruition as the skin shifted and arranged itself over Sally, until slowly she was fit into every last part, filling out finger for finger, toe for toe, her eyes looking through Jimmy's eye holes. The flesh of Jimmy's mouth curling up under lips and gums, his anus squeezing into her colon. More frustrating to the girl, her screaming stopped, as though she couldn't control her vocal cords anymore. Jimmy's neck, the skin of his neck, constricted her and molded her own neck to do as he pleased. His flesh now controlled her muscles, her arms, her legs, with its own unearthly might overriding her merely mortal torso and limbs. She found she had no will to move, no control over her own movements. Only her thoughts were her own, and the stewing sensation of her skin suffocating under his flesh, deteriorating as it heated up from an inability to sweat or breathe, being completely covered by this supernatural organism. It walked her to a mirror. The flesh was still arranging lightly, but she could see through its eyes. It looked like her. Jimmy was no more, and instead there was a transformed Sally. Her body was getting longer and leaner, and it had that mysterious hypnotic glow to it, that glow that accompanied Jimmy's skin and made him so irresistible. "I've never been a girl yet," the skin said through Sally. "This should be different." Finally, one last sensation breached Sally's mind. The sensation of Jimmy's deflated testicle sac and penile skin rising upwards, penetrating her, filling her out from the inside. It was the only pleasure she found in hell that would end her existence within a matter of days. Sally could helplessly watch and experience as she would die and rot from the inside of this creature, to be expelled when decomposed to the point of collapse, as did Jimmy before her. "Time to quit this job," Sally said to herself in the mirror, doing her makeup. "I think I'll apply to a construction firm filled with eager and needy men." She, if indeed it was a she, slipped on Sally's clothes, picked up her purse, and left, once again proving that there's more than what lurks on the surface. Or does it?
Like and subscribe before I die! And ring the little bell or you will surely go to hell.
Oh, we're telling spooky stories. This is not a spooky story. Oh, there's no way on the couch I can
it
say.
depends how you look at it. It is kind of spooky.
I guess so.
Wait, that's it? That's the end of the story?